So, have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what was I actually made for? It's this huge question that kind of follows us around, right? Well, today we're going to unpack a really fascinating way of looking at identity, and it all comes from a sermon that finds the answer in the very first chapter of Genesis. So let's unroll this blueprint and see what we find.
Yeah, this is the big one, the question of purpose. It's this deep, nagging feeling that there's something specific we're meant to be, something we're supposed to do. And the sermon we're exploring today suggests this question isn't just random. It tends to hit us, and hit us hard, at some very specific points in our lives.
The source points to two major identity crises. First, when we're teenagers, getting ready to launch into the world, we ask, who am I outside of my family? And then, that same question often comes roaring back in our 40s, after we've built a life and a career, and we look around and wonder, okay, is this it? Is this all there is?
Okay, now get ready for this, because this is where the sermon makes a pretty bold claim. It argues that the very act of asking, who am I, is actually a symptom that something's off, a kind of disconnect from who we were designed to be. The idea is, if everything were right, we wouldn't even have to ask. We'd just know.
And that brings us to the core thesis of this whole thing. Your identity isn't something you need to go out and find, like you're on some epic quest. It's something you already have. You just need to learn how to live in it. It's about stepping into the light of a blueprint that's already there.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We've talked about the search. Next, we're going to dig into that blueprint in Genesis, and then we'll break down the three huge pillars it talks about: transformation, reflection, and community. And then we'll wrap it all up.
So if our identity is a blueprint, where do we find it? Well, the sermon points us right to the very beginning, Genesis, chapter 1. The idea here is that this ancient text isn't just a story about how the world started, but it's the actual blueprint for what it means to be human.
So the very first pillar of this identity blueprint is transformation. The idea is that we are fundamentally wired to be agents of change, to bring order out of chaos, to build things, to make things better.
And this brings up a really interesting question, right? Why would an all-powerful God start with a fixer-upper? Why create something that was formless and empty? The sermon's answer is that God actually enjoys the process of transformation. He loves bringing light from darkness and order from chaos. The journey is just as important as the destination.
And get this transformation isn't messy or random. It's incredibly structured. The source material points out this beautiful two-part pattern. In the first 3 days, God creates the realms, light and dark, sky and water, and land. Then, in the next 3 days, he fills those exact realms with their rulers. It's this amazing picture of deliberate, orderly creation.
And this part is so important. God doesn't wait until the entire universe is done to give it a thumbs up. After each and every stage, he stops, looks at what he's done, and calls it good. So the big takeaway is that every step forward, every bit of progress, has value all on its own.
Okay, so we're made to transform the world, but that's just the what. Pillar number 2 tells us the how. We're meant to do it by reflecting the Creator. We are literally designed to be an image of the one who made us.
This brings us to this huge concept called imago Dei, which is just Latin for image of God. Now, in this framework, this isn't about what we look like, it's a job description. It means we were created to be God's representatives on earth, to show the rest of creation what he's like and who's in charge.
The sermon uses this fantastic analogy to make it stick. Think about an ancient king. To show everyone who ruled the land, he'd place statues of himself all over his kingdom. Those statues were a constant reminder of his authority. Well, in the same way, humanity is meant to be God's living, breathing statues.
Of course, there's a problem, right? A wrench in the works. The blueprint gets damaged. Sin, in this view, corrupts the image. The statue gets cracked and broken, and that's when we lose sight of who we are. That's what sends us back to that question. What was I made for?
But here is where the argument takes this incredible turn. That brokenness, the corruption of the image, actually opens up a possibility for an even deeper reflection of God. Before, maybe we can only reflect his power and creativity. But now, through redemption, we get to reflect things like mercy, grace, and forgiveness. Aspects of his character you can only really show to someone who's broken and hurting.
And that brings us to the final, crucial pillar of our identity. We were never meant to be little transformers and reflectors all on our own. We were fundamentally designed for community.
2. Just 2. That's the number of people God starts the whole human race with. And if you really think about it, that seems like a pretty strange plan.
I mean, really. If the goal is to fill the whole planet with billions of your images, why not just start with billions? Why go with this incredibly slow, inefficient model of starting with just a single pair?
The sermon suggests the answer is all about relationship. By starting with just 2, God is hardwiring community right into our origin story. It means we all have to have a common bond, a shared history. It forces us to depend on each other. It teaches us to be other-oriented, which, by the way, reflects the very nature of God, who is himself a community, Father, Son, and Spirit.
Okay, so let's put it all together. We've got the 3 pillars. What does this blueprint actually look like when it's fully assembled? This is where we get into living your true identity.
So you can see how these 3 pillars just lock together to form this one whole identity. We are agents of transformation. We're here to create, to build, to improve. We are agents of reflection. We're here to represent God's character and His mercy. And we are agents of community. We're made to do all of this in deep relationship with Him and with each other. And this, right here, is probably the biggest mind shift in the whole framework. Identity isn't passive. It's not some hidden treasure you have to discover inside yourself. According to this blueprint, your identity is active. It's about what you do.
And so that leaves us with one final thing to think about. If this is true, if our real identity shows up in our actions of transformation, reflection, and community, what changes for you? How would you live differently tomorrow if you started seeing every little task as a chance to live out the very reason you were made?